All right, there we are. There we are. It's just gone 5 p.m. in East Africa. My name is Christine, and I'm the author of Play to Win. And good, whatever time it is where you are. I have been doing this. I thought I could do this every day for 10 days. It's proved to be a little tricky. Yesterday I couldn't make it, but at least I had told you I wouldn't. But here we are in chapter 8. This book has 10 chapters. If you're joining us today, we're talking about this book, Play to Win. Play to Win. I have just put a link there where you can download the ebook. It's absolutely free. I was in the middle of doing my next book when I decided, why don't I first of all offer this book? I've had it a few years now. Have people download it and they're able to share. So if you haven't already downloaded, there's a link right there where you can download the book and share and learn the lessons that I shared in that book. This is a book that I first wrote in 2013, and then I did a revised version. What I'm looking at is the revised version that happened in 2016. All right, so I have been doing now. I always like to assume that I might be talking to someone who hasn't followed this series from the first one, and therefore it's a good idea for me to back up and in a minute or so go through what it is that we have covered so far. And the book is entitled Play to Win. It's based on the parable of the talents that says, to one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, and to another he gave 1. All of these people had one thing in common. We usually focus on the differences. They were not all given, but the point I want to pick out of this is that all of them got something. Now it's interesting that these assets were in a currency known as talents. It's interesting that the currency in the time of this parable were known as talents. Now, I like to look at talents as an investment that God has invested in each one of us. God has invested something in you, in me, that makes me unique. That's what I'm calling your unique ability. There's something you find easy to do. There's something you're naturally wired to do. And that's what I'm calling your unfair advantage. So that then if I'm fighting with you in that area, if I'm competing with you in that specific area, I am bound to lose because you have that innate ability to do that thing, whatever that thing is. And therefore, that's what we are calling your unique ability. Now, the first chapter of the book is the same thing as the subtitle of the book, and that is that life isn't fair. Now, when we say life isn't fair, which is what we covered in chapter 1, it's that you better identify the one thing that makes you that plays to your advantage, because life is never a level playing field. The sooner we accept that, the happier we all become. It's pointless to go through life wishing life were fair. Life is not fair. Somebody will have a better car than you. Somebody will have a better job than you. Somebody will have it better than you in one area or another. But it's consoling to realize that no one gets everything. Whatever it is you're envying that another person has got, don't bother, because there's something that's bothering them. All right? So life isn't fair. Don't burn any energy wishing life were fair. Just accept that life isn't fair and find where you have the comparative advantage, where you have the competitive advantage, and play in that area. So that's what we're talking about in chapter 1 when we say life isn't fair. And then we moved on to chapter 2, and chapter 2 talks about why play. The title of chapter 2 is Why Play? Why do I want to compete at all? And we gave 2 reasons. One, you don't have a choice. You got into this world, and the way the world operates is that whatever position you occupy, whether it's a job, whether it's a business, there's 10,000 other people in your city who can provide that service. So life is competitive. There's people who do things better than you. So you might as well accept that life is a competition. That's the first reason you want to play. Another reason is this: you want to indulge the thing that brings you pleasure. When we're talking about your unfair advantage, when you're talking about your talent, your gift, we're talking about something that is easy for you to do. I, for example, appreciate that I love teaching. I love doing this. I've actually been asked by a lot of people, how can you give away your book for free? How can you give these lessons for free? Because it's something I enjoy doing. It's something I'm naturally wired to do. It's not something that I find difficult to do at all. It's something that is a gift for me. So why play? because you indulge your greatest pleasure. You indulge your greatest pleasure. And chapter 3, we said, pick your game. This is where we actually shed some light on how do you identify your unfair advantage. It's okay to tell you that there is something that the maker has invested in you. It's okay to tell you that there is something you do better than anybody else. But there's people who have no idea what their talent is. If you don't know what your gift is, if you haven't gone through this, I propose that you do that immediately, because you want to figure out in what area can I play to my advantage? In what area do I have a comparative advantage? In what can I play to win? So when we are talking about how to identify your talent, when we are saying pick your game so that you're able to play to win, what we mean for you to do is, sorry, my phone is ringing. I just have to get that off. I should have done that before I started. Sorry. There's 4 questions which you can ask yourself that will lead you to identify your area of unfair advantage. This person is very persistent. Let me just tell them I can't talk right now. All right. I apologize about that. Don't worry, my phone will not ring again. The first thing you want to ask yourself is this: what are you naturally predisposed to? What do you enjoy doing? And that's what I was just talking about. In my case, it is teaching, it's conversing with people, it's building another person's life. It's what I love to do. It's what I naturally gravitate to. Even when I am doing a training on different things, I end up turning around and beginning to motivate people. I remember at one point, I was doing a training on customer service, and I ended up encouraging these people. I was talking to the staff of a particular company. I ended up doing what was almost an inspirational session, because I'll finish what I'm supposed to be teaching, but I will naturally gravitate to inspiring people, to teaching people. It's what I do naturally. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, what do I do for sorry, what do I naturally gravitate to? What do I love doing? What do I like talking about? What's my passion? What do I like to do? All right. And then the second question is, what would I do for free? There's a lot of things you do for money which you wouldn't do for free. There's teachers who wouldn't teach if it was not paid for. There's drivers who wouldn't drive if they weren't paid to drive. There's a lot of things we do because it pays the bills. Here we are talking about something that you would do for free. All right. So second question you want to ask yourself is, what would I do for free? Third question, what have people complimented me for? I might not be aware of my own gift. I might not be aware that I'm this great singer because I sing in the bathroom. I might not be aware that I am this great writer because I just write things. But when someone compliments you, and here I was giving the example of my friend whose house was so beautiful and so well done with colors and everything, that people began to ask her for her advice. People began to ask her to take them shopping, help them to choose what they need to pick and everything. And she wound up in a business of interior decor. All right. So that's the third question. And then the fourth one is, what did you get in trouble for as a child? Sometimes in the innocent, when we become adults, we tend to we are very cautious. We now know what wouldn't work. But somewhere between the age of 8 and 12, there's those things you liked to do. Usually that will usually point to your area of gifting. So that's a guideline on how you can identify your area of unfair advantage. Now, chapter 4, we're talking about taking action. Sometimes we tend to, and we're living in the information age where there is all this information available, including sessions like what I'm doing right now. There is so much available that we are studying. We want to read the next book. We want to do the next thing. We are gathering a lot of information without actually applying the information that we gather. And in this chapter, we are talking about the benefit of taking action. The difference between the people who succeed and the people who don't is 90%, almost 95% in my mind, dependent on how much action were they willing to put in. You would rather be doing the wrong thing, but be doing something. Because when you're in action is when you learn how not to do it. When you're in action is where you discover where the pitfalls are. When you're in action is where you meet contacts, is where you expose your gift, because you want us to get to know you for what you're good at. And when we do know what you're good at, we then allow you to do that, and you soon begin to make money doing that, and that winds up becoming your career. So you want to be in action. You want to be in action. There is something you can do today towards your dream. Even if it's calling somebody, even if it's finding out, even if it is Googling, there is something you can do today. Because a lot of times we get caught up in
analysis paralysis. Sometimes we get caught up in what we don't have. Someone said something interesting to me the other day. She said, happy people focus on what they have, and happy people focus on what is missing. I know somebody who is sitting down and telling their parents, and he, of in my mind, he should have begun what he's going to do by now, because he finished school about 5 years ago, and he's saying, I would like my family, I would like my parents to give me capital to start my business. How much capital do you need? 2 million shillings. What business do you want to do? I'm not very sure yet, but I need 2 million shillings. Can you see the folly of that attitude? Start where you are. Be in action. Before you can convince us to invest in your business, you have to be doing something. All right. So that is chapter 4, take action. Chapter 5 was pay the price. Pay the price. Nothing that you want is going to come to you for free. Now, when we say pay the price is hardly ever in cash. In fact, if it was in cash, it would be easier to pay. The price you have to pay to reach your dream will most of the time be in the habits you have to lose, the habits you have to pick up, the way you have to manage your time. All of this, it's in the way you conduct your life. I was having a conversation in one of our training programs. I'm involved in a program called Wealth Messenger program. We're running a 6-week program called Wealth Messenger, where we teach you how to pick up what you know and build a business around it. Now, if I could give you details on this if you just inbox me, if that's something that interests you. But during that course, I remember the facilitator saying this: we're teaching you how to become a millionaire. Only 5% of the population of the world make that amount of money. It is a little foolish to think that you will maintain your habits, the way you have done things in the past, the person you have been, and go ahead to live in the top 5% income earners in the world. It won't happen. It won't happen. You have to become another person altogether. So we're saying pay the price. The price will be in who you hang out with, the price will be in what you do with your time, the price will be in the habits you have to shed, all of those, and there's different examples. All right. Chapter 6 was get around winners. Get around winners. If you knew how much your bad company is costing you, you would shed that bad company immediately. There's people who are fun to be around. There's people who are nice to you, but they are costing you your future. Now, you know these people, I don't have to say their names. You know those people. Some of them are even in your family. There's people you simply need to shed because they are negative energy. You can't afford to keep them around you. And I said that I picked up this concept from Rich Dad's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. Somewhere inside that book, the author says stop reading. Take a pen and paper and write down 5 of the people you spend most of your time with. And this is a financial book. He said you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with in dollars and cents. I took that very seriously. I shared some people I did not need in my life because there's people whom. Now, let me give you a rough example. Say a promotion comes up in the company in which you work, and they are looking for applications, and say you decide to apply for this position. But someone you hang out with during lunch breaks and everything tells you, no, you know what, Christine, you could never qualify for this. And so you don't apply for the position. Can you really afford a friend like that? Can you really afford a friend like that? You want people who mean well for you. Because I promise you, the people that you are around shed their attitude towards you. Attitude tends to be, what do you call when a sickness can be a communicable disease? Attitude tends to be that way. You catch other people's attitude. So if you're hanging around people with the wrong attitude, you want to shed these people. You want to have people around you who are building you. Enough about that. Now, the last session we had was on chapter 7, win the war, not just the battle. We are talking about delayed gratification. We are talking about long-term success. Now, I'm a Kenyan, and therefore I can give an example of marathon running, long distance running. Long distance running is a very different skill from a dash. The skill you need to run 10,000 meters is very, very different from the skill that you need to run a 100-meter dash. It's very, very different. One is a burst of energy, and 10 seconds later, it's finished. Another one is sustained long term. I like what Jane is saying there. Yes, the word I was looking for is contagious. Attitude is contagious. Attitude is contagious. Thank you so much, Jane. That's the word I was looking for. All right. Now, back to winning the war and not the battle. The skill that you need to run a marathon is very, very different from the skill that you need to do a dash. A dash, you need to psych yourself up, get in the and run for 10 seconds. Life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. You want to be going slowly, slowly. I read the quote at one point of a boxer, I think, who said he's not afraid of an opponent who can punch a 10-kilogram punch. He's not afraid of that opponent. He's very afraid of an opponent who can punch for 10 hours. Rather than have one punch that's 10 kilos, he's more afraid of an opponent that can consistently punch for 10 hours. All right? You win a lot better when you underperform, but you underperform consistently. I usually take that attitude when it comes to my fitness. I'll go to the gym as often as I can. I will walk and I will exercise as often as I can. But as soon as I'm beginning to get tired, I stop. I don't push myself to where I get so exhausted that the next day I can't do it. I would much rather do a little, underperform every day. So you want to set long-term goals for yourself, but you want to keep it going. So you will lose some of the battles along the way. You definitely will. But don't worry about that, because everything that you're doing is building up to win the war. Everything that you're doing will win the war. In other words, life is a marathon. It's not a dash. All right. Now, that brings us to our discussion today, which is chapter 8, Win at Home. Win at home. Now, I met a gentleman. It's unfortunate I don't remember this guy's name, but he's the one who got me to put in a chapter. I remember at that point I had only done one book, and we were talking about my book. And then it was my very first book to do, which was in about 2006. I had done a book entitled Recipe for Success. My books will largely be inspirational books. And he told me, Christine, and at that point I was in the middle of writing this book, and he told me, make sure you put in a chapter about family relationships, about doing well at home. Because while we are saying chase your dream, while we are saying change everything about your life to become focused on succeeding in your particular unfair advantage, none of that will benefit you at all if you're not doing well in the family. Now, like I have been saying as I've been going through this series, this is not an audiobook. This is not where I'm reading out the book to you. I've offered the book. The link is there. Download the book and read it. I'm not talking about what is in the book. I'm just giving overall thoughts on the book. So I'm not going to be referring too much to what is in the book at this point. I'm just giving some thoughts, on some of the areas that we're talking about now. Let's go to the discussion on winning at home. First of all, I'd like to put out that everybody has a family. Everybody has a family. Usually when we give talks, when we give trainings, and when we're speaking, people who are single tend to think, I don't have a family. When we're saying family, we are not talking about your wife, husband, or children. That's not necessarily your family. That is your family. But family is people who are your kin. And everybody has family. Unless you fell from a tree, everybody has family. Now, we are African, and therefore we understand that pretty easily. There's people in another culture who tend to be very individualistic in their culture. But in Africa, we understand family. In Africa, we understand family very well. And what we are saying here is make your family your priority. Now, I want to just make a few pointers towards family. And the first thing I want to say is this: no family is perfect. No family is perfect. I'm reminded of a funny story that happened at one point. Many, many years ago, we were having a discussion on a Sunday afternoon. We were about 5 ladies or so. And for some reason, the conversation went round and we began to talk about in-laws, And everyone was talking about how drama happens whenever we go home. I think it was just about Christmas and people are about to go home. And so we got to talking about, extended family and in-laws and everything. And everyone had dramatic incidences that had come up from their family. And one of the ladies present was a young girl who had just finished school. And I remember her saying something like, oh my goodness, you guys are married into such sad families. I wouldn't like to marry a family like that. We laughed in her face and told her, listen, on the day you meet a perfect family, please marry them quickly. Please marry them quickly. But keep in mind that even your own family where you came from is not perfect. There is no perfect family. Do you have family drama? Tell us something we don't know. Everybody has got family drama. Every family. That's not what makes you special. That's what makes you human. Every family has drama. And what we were telling that lady is like, in fact, you might as well just stay in your own family. Because the reason you're not noticing the drama in your family is you're used to it. It's just drama in everybody's family. So it's a good idea for us to accept that every family has got its weaknesses. Now, I'm sure you're thinking of members of your family that are the problem. And I'm sure if they were the ones watching this, they would be thinking about you. I'm saying that to say that all of us are human. If you called my family members, they would tell you all my imperfections. I am human. I have my weaknesses. Everybody has weakness. So accept the family that you're from. Accept the family that you're from. I've had incidences where people do not accept their family. I went to high school with a lady who did not think that her mom was worthy of being her mom. And throughout the time we were in school, she used to have her sister come to visit her. Now, I happen to be in a boarding school, and therefore, your family would come visit you over the weekend. And her sister would come and visit her, and her sister would come with her husband and children and all of that. And so that's the one who came from the city, that's the one who came by car. So this lady thought that that was a lot nicer to introduce as her family. They were her family, but that wasn't her mom, that was her bigger sister. And when her mother finally showed up, from the village, a much elderly lady, she introduced that as her grandmother. I think she had deep seated issues. It's a good idea to accept who you are. Just keep in mind that the grass always appears greener on the other side. Actually, it's interesting that a friend of mine told me once that she had this notion growing up that we fell from heaven in a balloon. She came from heaven in a balloon. She was a small child when she thought so. And she thought she came from heaven in a balloon. And she always thought, my balloon fell into the wrong compound. They had this very, very rich neighbor who had a huge garden and everything. And she said, my balloon missed it by just a few meters. I should have been in that family. Of course, she has since grown up and discovered her family is full of issues. They might have all the greener grass, in appearance, but they have their own issues. It's a good idea to accept your family for who they are. Accept your family for who they are. Families are made of imperfect human beings. There is no, I've had this about from a counselor. I've had this from a counselor, psychologist, the therapist, who told me that 90% of all mental illnesses, 90% of all situations that require counseling, that require therapy, are brought on by family relationships. That should tell you that family relationships are they're that close to us. They are that close to us. Why so? Because these are the people you care about. Now, if you found me on Facebook Live and said, what is Christine doing for relation man? What is this? Why would I care? That won't bother me. I don't know you. But if this was said by my brother, by my sister, it would carry that much more weight because these are people I care about. That is why it hurts so much deeper when we are hurt by our families. So we want to be careful how we handle our families. Let's make our families our priority. All right? Now, a lot of times when we are thinking about our family members, especially when we are thinking about our parents, we forget that they're just human. We forget that they're just human. When you were younger, you thought about your parents as the ones who know it all. In fact, the first time I interacted with adults, it wasn't with family, but the first time I interacted with adults, I was very disappointed with adults. I had just finished high school and I got a job. Now, the risk of betraying my age, in my time, we went for a 3-month paramilitary training before we joined the university. And just before I went for that, I had a job in a bank. And I was looking forward. I thought to myself, wow, I'm done with childishness now. I'm an adult. I'll be grown-ups. I was very disappointed with adults when I interacted with them. I was like, wait, these people are making jokes like we do in school. These are adults. This is an office. This is a work environment. I was really disappointed with adults, but I have since learned that adults are just like children. They're just human. Now, it's a good idea to discover that your mother is a woman before she's a mother, that your father is a man before he's your father. Sometimes and it took me becoming a parent to understand some of these things. Sometimes as children, we tend to, and we are all children to our parents, sometimes we expected our parents to be superhuman. We expected our parents to know it all, to do it right. Remember, and I especially feel for firstborns. I'm not a firstborn myself, but I've had a firstborn. And I made more mistakes parenting that person than I did with my subsequent children. Actually, my firstborn are twins. And I remember how I did things with my other children. I had then learned this works and this doesn't work. I know somebody who was firstborn and she was taken to boarding school and she's never forgiven her parents. When she was taken to boarding school when she was very, very young, her parents had just gotten married and they were trying to settle and all of that and all of that. And she wound up in boarding school. By the time they discovered boarding school is not such a good idea, they did not put her siblings in boarding school. She has a problem. First of all, the relationship between the siblings is touchy, and also she has this grudge with her parents. It's a good idea for us to realize that our parents are human. Some of the parents that we need to forgive are not even alive. But think of it this way: they did the best they knew how to do. Even if they abandoned you to adoption, they did the best they knew how to do. I do realize that sometimes our families have hurt us so badly, but it's only because that's the best that they knew to do. So if we are going to succeed in the things that we are doing, it's a good idea for us to forgive those things that have happened in our family. It's a good idea for us to do this. This one is, for me, even a bigger point because family members find it easier to sympathize with your failure than they do to sympathize with your success. And if you're going to be successful, you want to learn to celebrate the success of others. We so rarely, I am very, very fortunate. I have a lot of support and encouragement from my family. But I know that doesn't happen for everybody. There's a lot of people who don't receive any support from their family. This is my advice to you. Be supportive of family. Be supportive of family. Don't be extra competitive with your siblings. Don't be competitive with your cousins, with other people that you grew up with. It's a good idea for you to be supportive of them. When somebody is doing something, be encouraging to them. When someone is succeeding in something, celebrate them. Celebrate them. Because like we say, the people who hurt you the most are your family because those are the ones you love the most. And so also the people whose encouragement you appreciate the most will be your family members. So you want to make your family your priority because think about it. Who do we do all of this for? We do it for our family. This whole pursue your career, do well in this and that. What do we do all of this for? We do it for our family. So you do want to do well by your family. The way you do well by your family is you accept who they are, is you forgive what you have to forgive, is you encourage and feel happy for your family. So make your family your priority. Now, in the points to ponder, like I said, if you're joining this today, you will discover, if you download the book Play to Win, you will discover that at the end of every chapter, there is the points to ponder where you're given space to write down some of your thoughts concerning the chapter that we were talking about. Now, I love what I put in the points to ponder. Now, I learned this from a particular teacher that I hear from all the time, and he gave one exercise, and that's all that I am sharing here today. The exercise is in 2 stages, and the first stage is this. Now, every once in a while, whoever it is that you're dealing with in your family, your son, your daughter, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your mother, whoever it is you're relating with, it's a good idea every once in a while to ask them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how am I doing in this relationship? And they will give you a number. Now, especially if you're dealing with your children, you can't react. If you're given a number that is less than 10, don't be like, oh my God, how can, because that means that you're not a safe space. They will not give you honest feedback again. So whoever it is that you're dealing with, accept the feedback that you're given, okay? So say, for example, I ask my daughter, how would you gauge my relationship with you? And they say 7, you know. The next question is this: what would it take to make it 10. You will be very surprised at the things that they talk about. You will be very, very surprised at the things they talk about. Sometimes we do things for our children, we buy them expensive gifts, we make huge sacrifices for them. And when you ask them, how would you gauge my relationship with you? They'd say something like 5 or 6. And you're like, what would it take to make it a 10? Let's say you'd come to my swimming gala, or you would come personally to pick me up when I do this and this. You would come, while you think you're making so many sacrifices, you're putting them in a good school, you're getting them this and that, the things that they say, be very, very attentive when you're told what would it take to make it a 10. That's what you should focus on, because that means that's what's important for that person. So with whomever you are dealing, every once in a while, you want to be intentional about how you manage your relationships. We've talked about all the other things that you want to do about succeeding in your life. So you want to be intentional about how you relate with your family. So if your daughter, if your auntie, if your whomever it is you're relating with, ask them, how would you gauge our relationship? Get a number. Do not react, accept the number. The first number that comes is the truth. Accept. Ask the next question. What would it take to make it a 10? That is what then you work on. So that covers chapter 8, Win at Home. Now, I'm doing my best to finish this, so I will see you here tomorrow at 5 o'clock East African time when we talk about chapter 9, which is Develop Winners. And then we will conclude with chapter 10, which is Just Do It. These are shorter chapters. I shouldn't be able to take too long. I've been trying to keep this under 30 minutes so that then I don't talk on and on. But I really appreciate all the feedback I'm getting. Once again, if you haven't already downloaded that book, please do. If you want to share that link with your friends and family, you can, so that they too can download the book later on. Have a very good day. Have a very good evening. Have a very good morning. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.